Hey, everybody, welcome to Love and Reload, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I'm so blessed and honored to be here with my friend, Craig Donovan, Senior Vice President of Global Network Integration at Sterling Lexicon. Craig, how are you doing today?
I'm good. That was a mouthful, huh? That's a lot
It
of
was a lot. It's a lot.
that's a word salad.
I
Yeah,
think
I'm
I
great.
read your
Thanks.
whole business card just now. It was a lot. But you do a lot. You do a lot of things.
Yeah, the Global Network Integration Group covers a lot of segments of what we do as an organization. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
I
mean,
just
at the
go
end
I
of the
go
day,
with the
a
letters.
relocation management company is its network in
Yep.
a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I share this with the supply group all the time. I mean, relocation companies, we're coordinators of service. The suppliers are on the ground deliverers of what we do for our customers and our clients, and so they represent us. They couldn't be any more important because they're the ones that are there. We are customer service people, but we coordinate. The better the supply chain, the supplier network, the better we perform. So yeah, our suppliers are, to me, particularly, maybe I'm biased because I'm in that world, the most critical piece of our business. Our
Yeah.
consultants, of course, our consultants are important, but
It
for
was
me,
hard,
because
right? It's like,
but
yeah.
as a person who runs the supplier network, I think they are, the most important thing.
I would tend to agree. As a former supplier myself, I love to hear that the suppliers are valued because we don't always feel valued. But people like you with your philosophy always make us do feel valued. If you're out there right now watching this, to all of our listeners and viewers right now, you might be suppliers. Let us know. Who are you? Get in the comments right now. Check in with us. Let us know who you are, where you are. Give your company a shout out. And you know what? Since we're talking about suppliers, let us know what you do. This is your opportunity to say, you know what? I'm Ben Cross, my company Glomo, and we do recruitment. Tell us what you do in the comments. We'll give you a shout out. Hit that like button right now. Send a little, hit that love one for Craig. Send a little love out there. Craig, where in the world are you right now?
Jacksonville, Florida, lovely Jacksonville.
Jax. All right. What's the weather like in Florida? It's hot as heck here in Texas.
It's actually not bad. I think we're like in the high 80s. Humidity is pretty high, but yeah, we're actually it's not bad. It's balmy.
I love it. It's a balmy 88 there in Jax. Let's see who's checking in with us. We got Aaron. Greetings from Kansas City. What's up, Aaron? Andy Galecki. Hello from San Diego. Look at this. Tess Cheney, hello from Houston. Megan Bark, hello from Iowa. Hit that like button right now. That lets everybody know we are live. Christina, nice to see you. Nice to see you as well, Christina. It's fun. We get to see people's like little bits. Just enough of Christina. Just this much right here. Stacy Miller, look at this. Stacy Miller Charay. Hi, Craig and Ben. Great to see you both. Good to see you too, Stacy. Teresa Pope. You recognize any of these names, Craig?
I do. Stacy said she was going to pick on me on the call, so that was a nice start. She did. There we go.
Don't let us down, Stacy.
Yeah.
Spill the tea. Veronica, hello from Connecticut. Look at this. Laura Benjamin.
From right across
Checking in. It's good to see you, Laura. I hope I see you in Vegas, Laura. Be good to see you there.
You will.
You always you guys always throw a nice little soiree out there at Worldwide ERC. Are you doing your annual kind of recognition reception this year?
So it's not necessarily, we're not doing the recognition portion. We are going to have a supplier cocktail. We've done it for the last, I think it's 8 or 9 years. The Tuesday before the official kickoff, and it's always been for us an opportunity to take a moment every year to thank our suppliers. So it's actually a supplier recognition and thank you event, appreciation event. Historically, in the past couple of years, we've been doing awards as well. It is actually so chaotic that we've decided it's too loud, too many people. So we're actually going to do awards and recognition a different way this year because it's just too, frankly, people are having too much fun to pay attention to, award presentations. So
and then you get that glass, like that crystal trophy, and now you're like having a cocktail over here, and then you're like, "Hey, Gary Grund, hold my trophy real quick," and then Gary absconds with it, and then you don't have a trophy anymore.
So we'll definitely, we're still going to. It's important to us, as we said, to appreciate the supplier network we work with, our partners, but we'll do it a little different. So we will have an event actually at the Wynn in one of the cocktail rooms. on Tuesday before at about 4 or 5 o'clock, I believe.
Nice. So mark your calendars. How does one get an invitation to this prestigious event?
So it's actually, I mean, frankly, the network partners get one automatically. That's how it goes out to them. And then we, depending on how many people we have, and then, people ask, can I come? Can I bring a partner? I'd like someone like you introduce. I'd like to bring a client. Those are obviously nice for us as well. So, and it's not necessarily because we're for sales, but they're with their client. They want to bring them. So we expand from that. So, typically the best inroad is through one of the suppliers we work with, because they'll ask for additions.
I love it. So my takeaways here are two.
Yeah,
One,
this
bring a
went bad for me, I
client.
think.
Bring a client. Two, bring your own trophy. Okay.
There you go.
If you
Yeah.
want to have a trophy at these things and it makes a lovely accessory, bring your own trophy. Just kidding, kind of, sort of. Amy checking in from St. Louis. Rob checking in from London town. Oh, I love it when we get the continentals, when we get transcontinental in here. This is great. We got people checking in here. Jamie Massler from Mississippi. Dick Scaffa. Look at Jana in Rio de Janeiro checking in. Lee in Atlanta. Rachel, look at this. It's great. Mike Falia from Southern California.
Mike.
We got our first question here, and this is a question for the audience. So this is an audience participation show. Craig, I don't know if you know this, but Love and Relo is actually all about facilitating conversations between the audience and the guest. And we have our first question for the audience. Put it in the comments. Who has the better beard game? Is it Craig Donovan? Or is it me with that kind of more of a 5 o'clock shadow? It's like a 3-day-old 5 o'clock shadow. Let us know in there. Mike always keeping it fun out here. Laura checking in. Dick saying we do moves for Sterling Lexicon.
Yes, they
Very
do.
cool. We've got Africa in the house. We've got Ghana, Pa in the house. This is fantastic. Scott Chapman checking in. Lisa Ross from San Diego. Look at this. Drew Phillips, greetings from 30,000 feet.
True.
We're up in the air. We cannot be contained. This is great. Denver here. Arizona checking in. Jersey, Mary Piper, Erica Burton. Hit that like button right now. Erica says, I'm in Jax this week. Look at this. Stop by. Gary. There's Gary. See? I knew Gary was going to be here.
There he is.
There you go. If there's a party, Gary's there. Mary Piper, good afternoon. Checking in. Rob, if you've got questions for Craig, let us know. We're going to be talking about, supplier partnerships. We're going to be talking about supplier diversity, which is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart, and I know Craig is passionate about as well. Put your comments and questions in here. I want to know what you think. We will always prioritize your comments and questions here as well. Here, we do have, by the way, the results from the poll have come back. We should actually run the elections here because we get results way faster than they do. Caroline says Craig. Mary says Craig. Elizabeth says Craig. Everybody has Craig by a mile in a landslide. Laura says my boss. This is. I don't get
good
one
work. That's good work.
vote. I don't get one vote here. This is really, really terrible.
I vote for yours. Yours is younger than mine. I like yours. Yours is.
I'm getting a little bit of that gray whisker right here, Craig. Getting a little bit of that. Gary's holding his own trophy. Yeah, Gary's busy. I love it. This is fantastic. This is great. I want to ask you, going back to, you got this wonderful title, Global Network Integration. What does that mean? Help us understand, what does that mean, and what do you see your job really as at Sterling Lexicon?
Sure. I mean, my job at Sterling Lexicon encompasses a variety of things outside of the typical supplier, if you call it relations world. But as it relates specifically to global network integration, and a term that we developed when I think I started here a couple years after I started here. What we wanted to imply is, the global network integration is how we work with our suppliers and how our suppliers work with us is as important as anything else. Supply chain, and everybody uses supply chain. It's okay. I was at another company when supply chain became the thing to call it. Supply chain to me is it helps identify widgets, and every chain is a portion and is a supplier. And I don't think that's how we work. We don't go through steps. We do this. We do household goods, then we do immigration, then we do temp living, then we sell the house. they're all happening at the same time. And I mentioned that, relocation companies are coordinators of service. That's what we do, is we bring all those suppliers together. And the better those suppliers integrate into our culture and our philosophy, the better we are at performing for our clients and our transferees. They're all, my team can roll their eyes because they've heard me say it for 6 years. The service delivery and the supplier networks are strands on a rope, and they tangle around us as the coordinator. A strand on a rope can break, and it won't fail. It will just put a lot more pressure on the other suppliers, and that's what the network integration to me means. Is that the better our suppliers work together and work with us, the better we can deliver. And if there is a failure, because there will be failures, it isn't catastrophic. It doesn't break the chain. It actually just puts strain, which others can then pick up because they'll pick somebody up later.
I really like that analogy about the strands or the threads of a rope, kind of, and you can, one can pop, but you still have the rope intact. And then yes, it does put more pressure on the other ones. That makes a lot of sense, especially coming from a moving background, because I know, that's very, very apropos in moving. What is your philosophy around the relationships and that relationship? Because I've been a supplier, and it can be difficult sometimes, and sometimes we don't always feel like it's an equitable relationship, and it feels sometimes hierarchical. How do you approach that?
I mean, I think and I say we because I'm about to speak almost for like the all the mid-tier suppliers, RMCs. We need to work with our suppliers in partnership, and so there really is a partnership there. Um, the bigger you are, the more you can really just sort of commoditize the business and go to the lowest common denominator, because you have the volume. People come back for volume. You were in household goods. I mean, we can joke around it for all you want. People can complain, but they always come back for the volume. They always come back for the volume. And we have volume, but I think it's a different kind of volume. And so what you need to do is make sure that the people you're working with um, appreciate working with you, in the sense that you pay them on time. You take care of the little things. It's not just about the business I give them, because you can get business anywhere. I'm not a sales guy, obviously. You can get business anywhere, but I want the suppliers to work with us and to treat us differently, because we respect them. We answer their phone calls. That's something that I've heard, which is it was really important. You pick up the phone, you pay them within 30 days, 60 days. 30 days is light years in relocation. 90 days is standard. You are responsive to their questions, and you treat them the way they treat you. And so I think it's um, my goal is that our supplier networks speak well of us, and not just that they walk away and go, yeah, I do work with. I mean, Dick said, Dick was like, I do work with them. Yes, that's great. But what I really want is they walk away and go, I do work with them, and it's really it's good working with them, because our word, for our best opportunity for sales and growth is, to me, through our suppliers. Our suppliers are the best word of mouth of who we are as an organization, because how you treat those that are your suppliers, vendors, if you will, is a good indicator of how you treat everybody. And I think we do very well with that. I think we are we treat our suppliers with respect. That's ultimately what you want, is that you're treating them with respect, not just as a commodity.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there. And I want to ask the audience to weigh in on this, because I think our audience is overwhelmingly supplier heavy today. I want to ask you out there first, hit that like button right now, send a little love out to Craig and myself, but also, what is important to you in a supplier client relationship? What do you look for? Is it quick payment terms? Is it just respectful discourse and conversation, two-way communication? Is it, volume? Is it, revenue quality? I'd love to know out there, what do people really look for when they say, hey, that's my favorite client? What makes your favorite client? I'd really love to know. We've got people checking in here and giving us some of this opinion now. Kelly Cockrell says, as a side note, Craig was the first supplier manager to get his network to talk to each other, to work together to benefit their customers. Wow. That's pretty cool.
And I think actually what Kelly's talking about there is one of the things that we talk about philosophically is there's the when you have a network in place is that you talk to the network. Let's say Stacy just popped in for mortgage or Kelly for temp living. You work with your network and you say you guys are in the network. You don't need to fight each other anymore. You're all together. Your job now is to make this network, this temp living or this mortgage network, one of the best out there because when that happens, I'm happy and nothing needs to change, if you will. So it really was, try to get your partners to be partners within the network. And if you go back to the moving, if you got 10 movers, you know, everybody gets along, but nobody would mind taking 100 moves from somebody that slides over to you. And what I kind of try to hope is to say, work together and we'll get more moves just by getting it from the outside and you guys will benefit from that because if you're working to cut each other's throats for lack of a better term um, you're undercutting each other and that's not a network, that's not a partnership, and that's kind of what I think Kelly's referring to is what Template was one of the groups we did that with, and it was satisfactory I think because you're looking long term, you're not looking to have the best year ever, you're looking to have the next 20 years because that's what you're going to get if you're
Yeah.
working in conjunction with each other.
Yeah, taking that long view is really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that. Stacy Miller Sheree says Sterling Lexicon has always done a great job making us feel like a partner and not just a vendor. What's the difference between a partner and a vendor, Craig?
Um, a vendor delivers a service for you. A partner is someone that you're engaged with for the long term and is for along for the ride. That you're you're interested in each other's growth. One of the things that um, we like within our partner networks is I take great pride in finding out that partners within our network, whether they're different segments, temp living, mortgage, household goods, or within the networks themselves, have gotten business from working together. That's me generating for my partners revenue that I don't even I'm not involved in. A vendor I generate revenue for because I give you business. There you go. I give you revenue all day long. But I think I've had conversations where people across van lines, so and so is using the warehouse of another person because they met him at our cocktail event, or they met him at one of our network events,
Right.
or a temp living supplier is matched up with a household goods. Nothing makes me happier. That doesn't bring me any money, but as the guy who runs global network integration is responsible for supplier partnerships, that makes me incredibly happy because I created benefit for people, and that's free. That doesn't cost me anything.
Right.
That all I get out of that is goodwill, hopefully, that the suppliers or the partners walk away going, that is, that I'm glad I'm in that group.
Yeah, so it sounds like a vendor is just someone you pay, but a partner is growing with you. You know, you grow together. That's
I think you're invested in a partner. You're not
right,
necessarily invested in a vendor.
right,
A partner is someone again, we manage everything is long term for us. Customer service is rolling 12. Most RMCs are doing rolling 12, rolling 6. That's a partner because you're saying you're gonna make a mistake, and that's okay because I'm looking at you over a 12-month period. I want to see how you do, how you trend. A vendor is you made a mistake, you're out, and that's that us, and I think most RMCs probably are managing more from the long term because you're paralyzed by fear when you're a vendor because you know that you're only as good as your last move, and it's very hard to give suggestions to be innovative if you think that you try something and I go, well, you messed up, you're gone. That
right.
you're never gonna actually try anything. And we do want people to try things. We want people to be innovative. So you got to be open to mistakes or wrong innovation. That's okay.
This is really good. I really appreciate this insight into sitting on your side of the desk there because I've always been on the other side. Carrie saying Sterling Lexicon absolutely treats their suppliers with respect and partnership. We asked everyone out there what they thought what they valued in a partnership. Rob says context. The more we can understand about a client's priorities and values, the better we can support them. This is a really good one, Rob. Shout out to Rob Wicked Smart in Cambridge. This is a really good one because oftentimes if we're brought to the other side of the table and we can really see behind the curtain at the problem as suppliers, I mean, we're pretty much expert in our vertical. If we're allowed that glimpse behind the curtain, we can be a lot more effective and add a lot of value. But we're not always allowed behind the curtain to fix the problems. Have you seen that? What do you think? Or how do we get behind the curtain and get a seat at the table so we can help solve? I mean, what are your thoughts around that comment?
It's a really, really good question, because one of the things I just referenced is, if the partners all work together, the business stays there. And that means you've essentially created a block for anybody else. And so, I mean, it's the responsibility of us as a global network integration, as a supplier relations group, to keep doors open. And we do. I mean, I think we talk to more non-network suppliers than network suppliers, and we should. Our job is to take those calls. Our job is to field them. Everybody is a supplier. Will be a supplier at some point. I mean, we will work with everybody. It's just a question of when. But it's it's the persistence on knocking at the door. And but I do think, I know my team perks up when you hear something you haven't heard before. So it's not, probably no secret to the folks on here. Don't say, hey, we're the best service provider in our industry. We have fantastic service providers. It's, unless you heard that our service is really bad, then you can come to us. But what is the innovative thing you're thinking about? What is the thing? We have a different model for, temp. We have a better financial model for temp living. We have a different model in mortgages for handling lower budget individuals. We have a better model in real estate, a touch-free model. I think something different is what perks up. And actually, I mean, the biggest thing you want is the ability to have a long phone call. And I think you want to find that thing that makes us go, sure, let's have that phone call, versus let me have your information and we'll keep you on file. It's what is the thing that perks us, and it's something different. I think, and I can't tell you what it is. It has to be. You can't say you're doing what everybody else does, and I think that's we have the greatest capacity of trucks. Everybody says that. We have the best service.
Does quality kind of just become table stakes then, and you have to really compete on innovation? Or, I mean, because a lot of people go to market and they're like, hey, our quality scores are 94%, and we just won the award as the best van line over here, and what I mean, these are my sales lines from back in the day.
No,
how do we get your attention?
Yeah, no, and those are. I mean, again, I don't want to discount those, because it's important that you share your successes. But you're right, customer service is table stakes in relocation. There is, the people that are on this call, and particularly in part because we've been doing this for so long, over 30 years. You go to ERC, you see it's this. Our group is small compared to the supplier world as a whole. You look at the van lines, it's a very small subset. They all have the table stakes of customer service. And very different. There's a reason we use the term, our suppliers are corporate versus retail. Corporate means they've all met that outside of compliance and legal and all that stuff. They have the table stakes on service. It's an automatic in our world.
Yeah.
You can't survive without service, no matter how innovative you are.
I want to take what you said there, but I also want to flip it and ask a different type of question. It does feel like we all go to, Worldwide ERC, we all go to IAM, International Association of Movers, we all go to CHIPA, whatever, right? And it does feel like, okay, we've mapped the ocean of suppliers out here. We know pretty much 95% of the people in the room. We know who they are. We know what they're doing. We've, like you said, you've worked with them. You've either worked with them, are working with them, are going to work with them in the future at some point. And yet, when we talk about things like supplier diversity, right? And I've had conversations with you at different conferences at Worldwide ERC and at Eura, et cetera. And I know this is a topic that is near to your heart, near to my heart. And so I appreciate the fact that we can come together and talk about this. And I'd love to hear from people out there in the audience as well. Hit that like button, get involved here. But as we talk about supplier diversity, and this is becoming an initiative, DE&I is becoming has been an initiative inside our organizations for a while now, and now is becoming an initiative that we handle externally with our partners and clients. How do we tackle DE&I from a supplier diversity standpoint? Talk to me a little bit about some of the things you've been thinking about lately and some of the ways that you started to tackle that.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the diversity is I mentioned corporate. Corporate's a small world. Corporate suppliers is a small world, and diversity is difficult in our world. I mean, I've been doing supply chain, supplier relations, 20 years, and it's always been a relatively difficult thing to be diverse, particularly with minority suppliers. I joke, although I will say, as shout out to E.E. Ward, who I say, you can't find diversity suppliers, and they've been around for 100 years.
140, 141.
Yeah. So that's an embarrassment for us.
But as soon as we think we know everybody, there's somebody out there.
Yes, exactly. And that's what I'm saying is, I would argue, I don't know that, find me 5 people that 5 years ago said E.E. Ward, but now they're out, people know them, and that's fantastic. So I think it's difficult for us. The barriers for entry into our world are very steep, and I don't mean the service themselves. Being a freight forwarder, for example, is or coordinating of service is not difficult. The compliance requirements, the insurance requirements, the legal requirements that have come up over the last 10 years, particularly, are very, very high. It's very expensive to work both for RMCs and for our suppliers that support us, and that's tough when you're trying to, whether you're trying to develop diversity, particularly diversity that's needs a hand getting into some of these worlds. I think, what I'd like to see, and it's difficult to guess, but I'd like to see more partnerships to expand diversity. And what I mean by that is, I'll call it mentorships, if you will. I have a network. I have, let me say I got 10 movers. What if one of my movers partnered with a minority supplier that is not in our space and helped make them for our space? And by that, I mean, you understand, my team, one of the things my team says when they talk to suppliers, particularly real estate agents who don't work in our world, is say, we're not easy to work with. We are a huge pain to work with. We ask for a lot of communication. So you need to be ready for that. RMCs are not easy to work with. It's a lot easier to work with someone off the street than to work with us. So if you had a supplier who mentored a diverse supplier, small business, if you will, and helped them through that, almost at the detriment of their own volume, because they'd be bringing them into me as an opportunity to use, I think that'd be fantastic. And I think it would be, it's rewardable. I feel it would have to be rewardable. And when you start talking about RFPs and that supplier needs to put on, what have you done for DEI? And you don't just say, I've got 20% diverse employees, or I pay this much in diverse dollars, but you get to say, I helped bring someone into our world who is now a $10 million company and works with 3 other RMCs. Again, that falls back to, the mentor doesn't make any money off of that, but the reward hopefully is people like us go, I like what you did there, and not only did you bring me somebody, but I like how I will reward you for that, because you're looking beyond yourself. That is incredibly kumbaya. I understand that, but that is what I think needs to happen, because it's difficult for just diverse, minority-owned moving companies just pop up. We work with, we are members, and we joined this year the NMSDC, the National Minority Supplier Development Council, which gives us access to a variety of Black-owned, Hispanic-owned businesses, which was for us a very hard thing to find for a long time. You can find the women-owned with the WBC. I used the wrong letters. Sorry. WBC. Thank you.
Bank or WBE.
Yep. And you can find small business through Small Business Administration, but we struggled for a long time finding, Black-owned business, Hispanic business, and so the NMSDC has helped us with that. But they're not technically. We've worked with some and had conversations with them. They're not really corporate at our level. They fall more into a retail space. So how do we? So now we can find folks, but how do we invest? And we need to as well. So I shouldn't just say the supplier. Sorry, my team could invest time in saying, let me show you how. Bud Gary Grunn's great company. Let me show you how Gary Grun and Bud became a corporate mover. And here's the things they do. And here's the 10 phone calls they make where you currently make 2. Things like that. I think that's what we need to invest in. We need to make these folks available.
Yeah. I mean, you're so correct, Craig, because everybody wants the business, but people don't understand what it takes to get it. And frankly, after they understand, half of them probably don't want it anymore, to be honest with you. Right. But I shout out to Gary because Gary Grun also shout out to Gary because I know he also has been working with my dear friend Hosea Botley, who's a minority owned and service disabled veteran owned small business in the relocation space at a Versal Global Relocation. So Gary and Bud use them for their international, and so Gary is doing some of that mentorship now and helping people get into this space. And Aaron's saying that's a great idea, Craig. Let me show you how. I think that's the motto we have to do, because we can't necessarily buy these services until they are, until they meet the requirements, until they're vetted. But yet at the same time, we need them to be part of our network. So how do we mentor? And I think that's really where the equity piece of DE&I comes from, right? Is not only, getting people into the party and making them feel at home, which is the inclusion piece, but it's also like teaching folks and mentoring them to get to the next level in their business or within the company, however it may be. So I love that idea. And I think that we could definitely put together a network of subject matter professionals in each vertical, household goods, real estate, mortgage, et cetera, and create kind of a coaching and mentorship group through LinkedIn. Maybe have a reception at Worldwide ERC where folks can come and really learn and get that mentorship about how to, and of course, and frankly, I think it also, you and people like you at RMCs are an enormous part of that, because there has to be demand for the product of this process. Mm-hmm. And so by you coming out and say, listen, and I'm not saying you said this, but imagine you did say this, hey, we have a goal of buying 10%, diverse dollars, next year. And so that's X spend. How do we get there? Because that's what a lot of our corporate clients are doing, right? Is they have these goals they're trying to hit. You got the $1 billion round table, Walmart, Toyota, and Honda, and JP Morgan Chase, and all of them are saying we're going to spend $1 billion with minority businesses each year. How do they get there? Well, their RMC's, tier 2 spend is a really good way to get there.
Well, and the NMSDC is humbling because we're a little tiny company in there, and these guys, they're all billion. You're right, they're making $1 billion pledges for spend every year, and it's interesting to hear what they've done, and there's a perception that diversity in DEI is a last couple years thing. There's companies that I think AT&T was one of the people we talked to as a mentor. They're doing like 20% diversity because they've been doing it for 15, 20 years. They've been on this roadmap for a long time. So it's overwhelming to be with these guys or to hear from them. And they're our customers in this sense. They're also the ones. It's why it makes sense that they're coming to us saying, "What are you doing now?" And I think it's the right thing to do, but also because we need our networks to be a reflection of who we are, and they probably aren't right now. When you look at the profiles of where we spend our money and who we work with, but they can be, they can be.
I love it. I love the idea of big corporate mentors RMC mentors service providers. Like it becomes a chain reaction. Mm-hmm. It's pretty cool. Jamie's saying Sterling Lexicon was the first RMC to request from their suppliers second tier, tier 2 spend data. Kudos to Craig and Christelle for this implementation. Shout out to Christelle. Christelle's awesome. Love her. I hope she's watching right now. Hit that like button right now if you're watching out there. We've got people checking in here, loving the idea of purposeful mentorship. Let's Let's see here. Love the idea of industry verticals to help new incoming suppliers learn how a gift of knowledge and know-how is priceless. Amen. That's true. Definitely. We've got Gary's got a question here. Craig, have you heard of this? Gary says, I was recently introduced to ESG assessments and measurement companies like Ecovitis and Alaya.
Yep.
Ecovitis and Alaya. Has anyone had experience with such firms? Craig, do you know anything about these?
So we are, and I'll probably speak poorly about it, but not poorly of it, but not well. Ecovitis, our European entity, actually has an Ecovitis, I believe, silver designation. Ecovitis is a I guess a rater of. Again, I apologize. I'm, but they're a rater of how you do with your sustainability. Sustainability is a big part of it, environmental sustainability, governance, and so obviously Europe is far ahead of us as in the Americas on. They won't even use plastic Legos anymore. They really are way ahead of us, and so that's something that's one of the organizations. I don't know Alaya, but we are. Working with our European counterparts, Sterling Lexicon, to incorporate some more of that Ecovitis on what we do. I think what it is essentially there's a lot of confusion in the relo industry right now because there's I had a conversation with a supplier at a very large supplier who said I've spent a lot of money on this on ESG and on these initiatives, and I just realized that on an RFP there's a question that says, do you have ESG? And it's a checkbox. Somebody who just thinks about it is able to check it, and me who spends millions of dollars on it can check it. That's incredibly unfair. And I think that's where I think you hear a lot of RMCs and suppliers. I think ERC particularly is looking at how do you create what is a standard for our industry? Because right now we're all doing it on our own. But the first step of it is knowing where you are right now. So that's where Ecovitis helps us in Europe, and we'd like to get some here in the U.S. Is what am I now? I'm going to assume we're all poor because we're Americans and we all drive pickups. But where are we? Where are we? Because that's our benchmark, and that's what we improve from. That's where we go. That's where we get better from. But a lot of us don't even know where we are right now.
And it would really help to have a objective measurement of this that's widely accepted, because you're right. When you do an RFP, most of it is self-reported.
Yes.
And who can write the most persuasive self-reported details around what they're doing? Convince me, and then with your words in detail, I will determine if you are actually doing what you say you are doing. But having an objective third party like the ones Gary's suggesting, I think would be incredibly valuable. And it would be interesting to see this become a normal thing. Kelly's saying Chippa just had a great webinar last week on this topic. Check out the website. Kelly, put the link in the comments. Let us all get better, please. Santrice says, definitely big kudos to Craig, Christelle, Rob, and the whole GNI team at Sterling Lexicon. Simon saying, so happy to see Craig on the show. Taught me how important it is to have respect for your peers, including those who work for your competitors. Such a jump, even in his wilder moments. Do tell Simon. We have plenty of time. Put it in the comments. Let us know what we do not know. I want to move on just a moment. Hit that like button, by the way. If you are watching right now, hit that like button. Get in the comments. I want to know what you're thinking out there. We've got questions. You know what? I got questions about trends. I want to talk about outsourcing. I want to talk about consolidation. I want to talk about where service levels are heading. I want to get all your opinions on that. I know we don't have a ton of time, so we're going to move kind of quickly, but I do have one question here because I want to prioritize the questions from the audience. Travis Washer, my good friend and former colleague, has a question. He's worked on the front lines as a general manager in this business for a long time on the moving side, and he has a bone to pick with RMCs. Could you give us some context here? He says, why is it with most RMCs, they want you to take care of the transferee with white gloves, and then the movers are in the house. We can't get in touch with the RMC coordinator, and the supplier wants to provide great service, so we do a long carry or extra labor, and then when it's time to get paid, we're short paid due to not having pre-approval. Craig?
Yeah, no, it's a fair question. I think, I'll give you the simple answer, which we always try to protect our suppliers with is, and he mentions not being able to get the coordinator, so this may not help, but until there's a response that the client will pay for it, it's COD. You have to protect your bottom line first. The reality is that you know we we pay and approve based on what our clients will pay, and I think um, it is a struggle. If we've never had a blank checkbook that says, make this. Actually, there are, with few exceptions, make this move happen, and I don't care.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. And so, everybody down the line needs to protect themselves. And that's why I say to our, again, as unattractive as it may be, I'm going to get this if I can. However, if I can't get it, it's COD. Um, or I take the risk because I want a really good score on this move. If we approve it without the client's approval, then we eat it because the supplier won't. Then it's ours. It moves the responsibility to us, which is okay because we may say this move has to go perfectly. This, or that. So it's just I'm not giving you a great answer because there's no.
It's
You're
a tough
never going to get a.
situation.
You're never getting a blank check. It's not happening. Now, what I would say is most suppliers, most RMCs that I know that I've worked with and talked to, you know, are willing to say after the fact to the client, hey, they needed this to happen. They really didn't have a choice. And most clients will probably say that's okay. And we're willing to ask. And that's what I ask of our account managers. Just ask the question. If they say no, yeah, then we're stuck. But it's a fair question. The people we work with, I mentioned our corporate suppliers, they want to do everything. We're very high level. They want to do everything to get it done. But there's always the question of approvals, and that's been our issue as an organization, as companies forever. Um, Hopefully, the RMCs can help you mitigate it by either blanket approvals up front or asking after the fact. But if you're willing to take that risk,
Yeah.
sorry if I don't really. I
It's a
can't. I
tough
can't. I
one.
can't give you. I
It's a
can't give you
really
a
tough one.
solution. Yeah.
Craig, I had a CEO ask me recently. He asked me, are consultants at this stage in the game these days, are they carrying a cell phone, or are they accessible after hours, or is that something that's during peak season, or is it generally speaking business hours these days? And,
The
and I've never worked
Yeah.
for an RMC, so I
Yep.
don't know.
Nope. Absolutely. I mean, even pre-COVID, for example, most again, at least I'll speak for Stern Lexicon. Stern Lexicon paid for the cell coverage of our consultants. Once COVID and the hybrid models and everybody's, then it absolutely is. It's always been kind of a 24/7 job. It's even more so now. That's 24/7 on calls, not necessarily an email. So to be fair, when you talk about I sent an email at 11 o'clock, I didn't get a response. I'm not necessarily saying they're in there, but if you get a phone call, you, they will pick that up. They are pretty available, and it's actually one of the items we pay for as an organization, particularly post COVID. Everybody's working hybrid model, so there's a lot more flexibility than there was before.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Thanks for answering those questions, John, Mary Lee. Appreciate y'all weighing in here. I want to ask you about some trends I'm seeing, and I want your thoughts on them. Outsourcing, the managed relocation industry really seems to exist in large part due to the fact that organizations and companies have outsourced their relocation programs, presumably because they're more effective, higher quality experience, maybe lower cost, whatever, myriad reasons. Do we see outsourcing continuing in this business, and where do you see it adding the most value?
So I think, I mean, outside of actual clients, yeah, I think clients, I mean, they're still, I don't think clients are taking relocation in-house. I mean, it is um, still in an outsourced model, if you will, I think with very different programs than we had 20, 30 years ago. But I also think you're seeing, and I'll probably use a different word than outsourcing, is from the RMC perspective, I think you're seeing a lot more specialization that we're trying to get out. So we I mentioned we work in a lot of services, a lot of things that we have to juggle. And I think I see a lot of my peers or other RMCs and ourselves trying to focus specialization on some of these things. Specialized technology for move management, for example, specialized technology for temp living, specialized technology for the different segments that we do immigration through our immigration partners, because we need to be more plugged in than we've been historically. And the standard relocation tools don't get you there. We need to plug in with specialized tools, specialized providers that help us track more closely the effectiveness of our services. So I think you see outsourcing, if you will. I mean, the RMCs are working with more partners, and different kind of partners, in trying to get service expertise, not necessarily keeping it all in house. And some of that is a reflection of the last couple of years have been very difficult. From a volume perspective, they've been good, but we haven't had the ebbs and flows. We had obviously the very poor flow at the beginning of COVID, and then post-COVID, volume stayed pretty consistently high. And RMCs, it's difficult to weather the ups and downs. And so the more that you can put into, we get information, we get data consolidated to us, and if we can consolidate it to someone who's managing that, then it allows them to weather it, because they have the different kinds of resources to be able to weather the changes in volume.
Right. So if they're maybe supporting healthcare industry and supporting a consumer goods industry and supporting the relocation industry, what you're saying is they're less susceptible to maybe those dramatic peaks and valleys in the business from a staffing perspective.
Or they're assisting, frankly, multiple RMCs. They may be doing the work of multiple RMCs, and so they've got a higher level of volume, and they can you can afford a 5%, 10% drop when you're doing 10,000 transactions versus 100. 100 to 10% drop on 100 is a big hit. 10% drop, even on 10,000, you still have 9,000.
You have more critical mass. Yeah. In call centers, we called it the rule of large numbers. And it's easier to run a large call center than to run a small call center.
And and this is more at, this isn't at the customer service level. Those are always going to be necessary. It's more about the back shop stuff on the management of household goods, and where is stuff, like, can I have a push button that shows me exactly where all my services are at any one moment? That's what it's about, is that kind of consolidation.
Yeah, for sure. Really, really interesting. You talked about volumes, and you talked kind of on the micro in the year, with the peaks and valleys that we know. What about macro? Where do you see volumes going, like, over time? You've been in this business for a while.
So, I mean, I think in the conversations I've had with suppliers, in the last 2 years has been very weird. If you talk to business owners, the business owners were like, "Wow, the volume isn't dropping. It didn't drop in the winter." And normally you're like, "That's awesome," but people were very, very busy. Summer's always busy, and there's always a breather, and there really wasn't that breather in the winter. So even you've probably seen this. Even business owners were like, "Man, I really wouldn't mind my team twiddling their thumbs for a little bit, because it's been crazy." And I've talked to folks about what they think, and I think there is an expectation that there will be a bit of a drop off this winter, that there will be a slowdown in the speed that we've seen. I mean, the last 2 years have been this perfect storm of capacity issues, real estate issues. You couldn't buy a house unless you had extra money. You couldn't get in a rental because there's no rental space. You couldn't get in temp living. All of those you could get in, of course, but everything was harder. Everything was difficult, and I think some of that will start to slow down. We love a hot rental market, a real estate market, obviously, but now it's going to cool down to a regular market, not a white hot market. That's okay. We don't want a down market, but I think some of the feeling is that we'll get back to. I think someone on my team mentioned in real estate said we're going to have the normal market. That's okay. And so I think there's an expectation in household goods as well that there will be a drop off this winter. I think everybody's really worried about the recession conversations, if you will. So even just what you see out there in the press is scares folks.
It does, and in some ways it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's like, if we keep talking about recession, we get so scared that we turn it into one, right? We all get very austere. We stop spending. We stop hiring. We do all the things that basically creates a lower GDP.
Yep.
right? For
But
over time.
and at the same time, you see, I mean, again, I don't know if the pendulum will swing, but there's a, particularly the last couple of years, a lot of work from home, obviously. And I think you start to see some of that pendulum go the other way, which is interesting. I think some of those companies are potentially backing out of that, but that's something that in our world, I mean, I think, of course, will have long-term effects. If people are working from where they want to be, then they're not being relocated where the company wants them to be, for the next 10, 20 years, bouncing around. They're living where they want to be and working uh, through Zoom in the places that the company wants them to be. That obviously would have an effect on us. So as organizations, we need to figure out how do we support them? Is there a market there to support people that are doing that?
Yeah.
Um, what's the
Yeah.
new model? What's the new thing?
Yeah. Super interesting. What's the new model? What's that new supplier network look like? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hit that like button. If you've got questions, throw them in there. We got our final 10 minutes of the show. I might try to keep Craig longer. I hope he doesn't have a hard stop. We'll see what happens. Victoria checking in. I agree with the statement on outsourcing since the consultants can be experts on everything. Problem is that makes more layers the consultant has to manage, which is why a customer or third party can't get an answer quickly. Victoria was a consultant at Cardis for a long time, the Pepsi account. I just had lunch with Victoria last week. So great insights there, Victoria. And you've seen it all over the years. Super cool. I probably should put the comment up when I start reading them. That's usually what good people do in this business. Next topic really quick I want to get to is consolidation. With this kind of maybe less business over time, we don't know, a little bit of uncertainty, the rule of large numbers prevailing, and that it's easier to run big companies than small companies. What are you seeing around consolidation, and what do you think will happen in this space?
So, by no means a business genius on this, but I do think when you see what happened with some large players and some other players, I think there may be some recognition that I think, in my opinion, this is the Craig Donovan opinion, no nothing else. We have been doing this for a long time. The relocation market was this. The pool we all played in was this, and that pool is getting smaller and smaller. So no matter who you are, unless you keep more and more percentage of that pool, then you I knew he was going to say swimming pool.
I had to go get that one for
There's
you,
a long
Craig.
story. Yeah, unless you keep more of what's available, your market, your market share. If your market share stays the same, your volumes are going to decrease. And so assume that there's 10 RMCs, they split it 10% each. You're going to still have 10%, but the amount of business you're getting is shrinking. And so I think maybe the consolidation is the realization that you need to come together. Um, Loved him. That was the and gain your efficiencies so that you are either managing less volume with less people or the same volume with less people. So that I don't know if that's true, if that's where it comes from, but um, I think there may be recognition from folks that you got to be looking at things differently because the pool of available relocations in the standard world is definitely smaller than it was and will I think continue to shrink.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to see people who have been in this business for a long time be kind of bearish on it, and to see people who haven't been in this business at all, private equity and money coming from like out of right field, and come in and be really bullish on it and want to get into it. So it's really interesting to see these two minds colliding, and then kind of what's happening right now with a lot of transactions and acquisitions in the space. So
And that's, I think, when you talk about that private equity, I mean, you're talking about coming in and putting a bunch of pieces together, and again, you're removing duplications and redundancies, and you're getting far more efficient with that volume. So there's a return to be made, but I think it's by putting a lot of pieces together. Um, so it's interesting to see. I mean, I think
yeah.
it's a reaction to what relocation changes. We have to change. When I mentioned suppliers have to be innovative, we're a supplier to our clients. We have to be innovative as well, and we're always looking for ways to do things differently, different models, different ways, so that we can meet the changes and be ahead of the changes.
As we talk about change and we talk about service what have you noticed over the last 10 or 20 years as it pertains to service? I've been in this business now, really in this business probably for, 10, 12 years, maybe. What have you noticed though over time managing networks? What do you think about service levels and where we're at today compared to maybe where we were 10, 20 years ago?
So pre-COVID service levels I would say, we're at some of our highest levels. We saw nothing but growth. I would say that, and then through COVID, we were still good. I would say the last couple of years have been difficult. I don't know that when I talk to my peers and Simon and others, there's we took hits in our networks, the capacity issues, the cost issues, we took hits. I think the hits have stopped. I will say that, when you look year over year, the year over year there was drops. They weren't dramatic drops. We weren't dropping into the 80s, but you're seeing, a 1% change is a pretty big deal in satisfaction over a course of large volume. I think it's stabilized, I hope, but I think it was specifically driven by, and again, it sounds like excuses, capacity, the capacity issues and the issues of, I'll use it, what was typically some, here, I'll tell you, appraisal services year over year for the last 2 years has been higher than it's ever been. Appraisal services is always one of the lowest because nobody likes their appraisal. They have over the last 2 years, but household real estate services, home finding has always been, people love home finding. It hasn't done well. It's still very good, but it's dropped because it's very hard to find a house right now because you got to put in, you're going in, there's 20 offers. That's,
right.
That's a reflection on, but conversely, home sale is through the roof because everybody loves their home sale.
Everybody loves that number. Man, my realtor got me such a good number on this house.
So has anything really particularly changed in our suppliers? Like, did our appraisers, Tina and others are there, and we love our appraisers. Did they get super better overnight? They sure a little bit, but it's people went, wow, I love my appraisals now. Like, my appraisals are great, and I loved my home sale. Man, buying a house really, really stinks.
This is hilarious because they're selling their
changed.
house. They're getting $100,000 more than they think they should. They're laughing all the way to the bank, and then they show up at destination. It's time to look for a house. I'm like, wait, hold up.
I got it. Yeah,
I can't afford nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate this.
Right. I have to pay cash, and I have to pay twice. Yeah. No, it is, and it's a fair feeling. I get it. But the suppliers haven't been any worse. It's just the experience is different because of the market. And it is funny to watch. The appraisal one makes me laugh just because it's always been funny. Because no one likes their appraisal. That's a long-standing joke.
Yeah, this is fun. We're having a good time here. Scott Chapman's says play well in the sandbox together, not against. That's his idea about good partnerships and having some fun there with the comments as well. I'd love to know what you think out there. People are digging the conversation. Appreciate that. Craig, you want to have a little fun right now?
Sure. Let's do it.
Let's go. Hey, we're gonna play a game, Craig. So I don't know if you've ever watched to the 55th minute of a Love and Reload before, but you might be in uncharted territory right now. Okay, we play a little game at the end of the show called Overrated or Underrated. Okay, it's a very simple game. You have two options. I'm going to give you a topic, and you can say it's either overrated or it's underrated, and I will tell you if you're correct.
All right.
Easy enough.
All right.
Here we go. Number one, dogs. You like dogs?
Yeah, they're underrated. I literally, honestly, behind me, I adopted 2 during COVID, so I got 2 recently. I'm not at the point where I call them my fur babies, to be clear, but I'm very happy with dogs. They are underrated.
Nice. I'm slowly coming around. I was not a dog person for a long time, but now I got kids. My mom got a dog that I'm connecting with. I had a dog on the show for the first time this year. So we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm still in the camp of overrated though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm still in the camp of overrated. Stacey's laughing at me right now. I'm gonna get so much hate mail. This is gonna be the most controversial episode of Love and Reload.
You cannot tell people you don't like dogs. That is a huge mistake.
I didn't say I don't like them. I didn't say I don't like them. I'm just Look at this. Look at this. People are getting in the comments already. I love it. Stacy, Craig's dogs are the cutest. We better move on. We better move on before the angry mob gets me. Next, e-bikes.
Overrated. Overrated. This is my old man moment. Doesn't anybody pedal anymore? They go by my house. Why doesn't anybody pedal? What happened to pedaling? Don't get me wrong.
Innovation, Craig. That's what happened.
No, no. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why doesn't anybody pedal? That's all. I'll leave it at that.
This is great. This is great. You know, you had your old man moment, and my controversial moment over here is just people are just on fire right now. People are just crushing me right now. This is great. So you hate e-bike. Look at Sandra. I'm losing. I had 20 viewers before I lost 21 just now. This is great. Sandra's out. Tony, dogs are not even close. Busted bed.
Yeah,
look at this. They're starting hashtags over here. I don't hate dogs. I'm just saying.
See?
Oh, this is great. Aaron's with you. Yes. What happened to pedaling? Honestly, give me that bike. All right. I haven't ridden a bike in probably 10 years. I'll sign me up. I'm in. That's great. Look at this. We're 0 for 2 so far, Craig. Let's see if we can bat for the cycle here. Number 3, relocation awards.
So there's no such thing as a push. I think recognition is underrated. I worry about physical awards, whether we're overrated. We provide awards, obviously. I think there's better ways to do awards.
The supplier partnership.
No. It's not that they're. So the awards are. Let me go back to ESG. They're physical pieces of something that you put on a shelf. And by the way, now nobody goes to the office anymore. So what's the point? Nobody sees anything. I think there's
they sit right up there on your credenza.
Exactly. There you go.
Next to your dog pictures.
So I think recognition is underrated. We need to be doing recognition. I don't know if it's the same old. Maybe there's a different way. I will throw out, and this is pandering in a way. I mean, could I use the same money I would have used for those awards to give money to charity on behalf of those suppliers? Isn't that a better? If I surveyed my suppliers, they'd all say, of course. They wouldn't be happy about it. But they would, right? They'd say, "I want the hardware." They want the hardware. So I don't know. That was a kind of like a push. Underrated for recognition, overrated for hardware. I think, but I get it.
Yeah. Everybody wants the hardware. We want to lug it around at as uncomfortable as it is. We want to lug it around all night at ERC. So people are like, "Hey, what'd you win?" "Oh yeah, I got this. Handsomest supplier from Sterling Lexicon. Don't you love it?" "Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Picture. Let's go. Put it on the mantle back there. So when I'm on the call with the next RMC, they can look how special I am." That kind of stuff. Hey, they might turn into NFTs. You know what they're going to turn into? They're going to turn into these NFTs, and you can put them in your signature block. I remember when I was at the moving company, I had like 5 of them. I was getting made fun of all the time. So that's.
I think there's far more opportunity through social media to recognize folks in a broader sense than necessarily with hardware. But I get it. I do get it. But I don't know.
I think it's very subjective. Scott says depends on the winner. If I win, it's underrated. If others win, it's overrated. I mean,
good point.
Obviously, this is great. People can tread lightly, Craig. This is great.
Yeah,
this is great. I love when the ice cracks under my feet. That's what I'm living. Next, Trevor Lawrence,
overrated, incredibly overrated.
Generational talent, Trevor Lawrence. Flow for days, the savior of the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise, the 1-1.
It may just be that I think he lost me the first time he did this with his hair. Yeah, no, that's overrated. I hope he does well. I root, but I think he's overrated.
It's a bit much. Well, let's see. The first year he didn't take the world by storm the first year, but the Jags didn't have as many weapons.
I will say I don't blame him for that. Yeah. I don't blame him for the lack of success. Let's put it that way. I think he's overrated, but it's not his fault.
Yeah. Look at this. Oh man, look at the vitriol. The vitriol. Jason Rollins, Trevor will be great. At least we're not talking about my dog's take anymore. All right. Last. Offices.
Underrated. I do think, and it's not just because I am in an office. I think the hybrid model has been really good. I think it's been helpful. I actually like a lot of it, but there is there's something to being in the office, being live. My team happens to be here today because we do the hybrid. There's something to be able to sit together. I do think, particularly again, going with the old man thing, early on in your career, being able to be exposed to folks, I think it's good. I don't know whether I don't know what the future holds in terms of offices, but I I'm a relationship guy. There's a reason everybody on here loves ERC. We love ERC because we all get together.
Right.
We all love the first ERC that was non-virtual because we get together. We are people persons, whether it's with suppliers or with our own coworkers. So, yeah, I guess I fall into the office category, but I respect hybrid, and I think it's been very good actually for us as a
What's funny
company.
about this is this one's interesting for me because before the pandemic, I would say they're overrated. Now I'd say
Mhm.
they're underrated.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Because it
fair.
used to be we go in every day by default. Because like,
Yep.
what else would we do?
Yep.
If you didn't come in the office, I'd open my notebook and I'd put a little tick next to your name and I'd tell you how many absences you had this year.
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And now it's like, why do we go in by default? But at the same time, it would still be nice to get in weekly,
And
whatever.
to your point, we're focusing on different things. We're not focusing on did you touch the office? Are you here? We're focusing on what are you doing? What are you
Yeah.
contributing? How are you? And that's valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, so we do a lot of recruitment. I tell people all the time, you need to measure output, not measure input.
Mhm.
The problem is output is great to measure when you have it. Input is often a leading indicator for output.
Mhm.
And so input is kind of a shortcut in a cheap way to measure output. It's interesting. Amy's saying hybrid model is the best of both worlds.
Mhm.
What type of model are y'all running these days, Craig?
We are hybrid. We have one remote location office, but for the most part, we are hybrid in our global services offices.
You guys
Tech
doing like a 1 day in, 2 day in, 3 day in? What kind of hybrid you got?
depends on the department and the needs. It ranges between. I mean, there are 5 day ones and 4 day ones. For the majority are 2 days in the office. There are some that are 1 day in the office.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as we kind of dip our toe back in, into this return to office thing and what works and what's the right amount. So this has been a lot of fun, Craig. You've been so insightful, so open, learned a lot. We talked about a lot of different things. I want to give you the opportunity to just leave us with maybe a final word, Craig.
Oh boy. Well, no. First, thank you for this. It is nerve-wracking to do this, but I think you make people very comfortable. So thank you for that. No, I think I appreciate the opportunity to talk to folks. I don't, the supplier world doesn't normally get an opportunity to share their philosophies, if you will. And as my team jokes, there's a lot of kumbaya in what I feel, but we are the supplier world is who we are. We're all suppliers to somebody, and we like each other. I mean, it's not a surprise. I mean, you nodded ERC. We all like each other. I sound like Sally Field. We do, but we like working with each other. We like to see each other. So, it's a pleasure to do this, and I look forward to seeing people again at ERC. But this is I think somewhat of a reflection on in the comments you see of what our industry is. We competitors and partners and everything else. We get along. It's okay. There's enough for all of us, and it makes our world enjoyable. I've been doing it for 30 years. I remember saying I can't believe, I remember saying to somebody, if you see my name go on the 5-year board, kill me. That was 31 years ago. So
Wow.
I mean, obviously, I love this industry. I love the people we work with, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and other folks. So thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. We appreciate you being here as well. People are digging the conversation. Talking about getting back together, though, also, I'd be remiss if I didn't put a plug in for the IAM conference, the International Association of Movers Conference, November 2nd through the 5th in Atlanta, which is not a home game, but it's drivable, Craig. Do you think I can get you to IAM if I give you the comp registration? You got to come through, maybe do a little supplier development.
I think we have some. We have folks at IM, but yeah, I could. Yeah, we can
Yeah,
talk
come
about it.
through, man. Come through. It's going to be good. We also got about 30 corporates that are going to be there as well. 1,500 people from about 110 countries. So just a plug for IAM conference. It's going to be amazing. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We wouldn't have a show without you all. So thanks for taking time out of your day. Hit that like button. Send Craig some love. Thanks for everybody getting involved and sharing your 2 cents. Craig, thanks as always. Great to see you.